We'll go ahead and jump into it. So, officially, good afternoon. Thank you all very much for being here today. Provide an update on our trooper-involved shooting that happened just over a week ago on Highway 36, just west of Boulder, in the city of Westminster. My name is Colonel Matthew Packard. I serve as the Chief of the Colorado State Patrol. We'll go over a little bit of the logistics of what you can expect for us today. I'll apologize up front. Got to do a little bit of movement. We're not good at this yet, which I take as a good thing, but we are taking notes, and just offer to any of you, if there's something you'd like to see different from us, please don't be shy. We'll work to get better to make this more seamless for you so we can help provide information in the best way possible. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to narrate what we're going to show you on a video here in the other room, so you can be prepared for what's on that. I will start by saying, although it's redacted by blurring images, there are some very challenging images on the video. There's also some harsh language, just for awareness as we watch through that. At the conclusion of our press conference here this afternoon, we will send, actually we go out at 1 o'clock, we will send out the edited compilation of video, as well as all of the source video that we used to create this edited video. It's just condensed with highlighting what we believe to be the most important points of that video. That source comes from multiple places. What we used for this video today comes from, there are 2 cameras in our patrol cars. There's a forward-facing camera in the windshield, and then there's an internal passenger. Actually, in this case, it's pointed at the prisoner area of the patrol car. Corporal Simcox had a body camera on, as well as the body-worn camera of one of the first responding troopers. A couple points to make notice here as well. As Corporal Simcox was exiting his patrol car, his body-worn camera it's mounted with a magnet on his uniform shirt. It fell off as he was getting out of the car in the very early on in this incident. Also, the forward-facing camera, the cable that connects the camera to the brains of that system, was actually severed by a bullet that was fired into the patrol car. And you'll see it in the video that feed cuts off very, very quickly. So those are some of the challenges that we work through specifically with the body-worn camera video. Again, I'll try to narrate the events as I know them to be today and what you'll see on the video. A couple other things I want to make very clear is this investigation is being led by the 17th Judicial District's Critical Incident Team. It is not being led by the Colorado State Patrol. And so I have not had a briefing from that team. What I'm going to share with you today is what I know from our own review of our video, and some very limited conversations with our own members that happened on that Saturday afternoon, and what I've learned since. I will say that the State Patrol is very much invested in understanding why this occurred. We need to make sure we understand if Corporal Simcox has a specific threat against him, or members of this organization, or really why this occurred. I will share with you up front that at this point, I do not know what the motive of this shooting was. In fact, if pressed today, I would tell you that I believe, based on current information, that Corporal Simcox was a target of opportunity. I think this shooter saw a patrol car, and that's the one he decided to take shots at. Beyond that, I just don't know specifically what happened. I am pleased to share with you that Corporal Simcox continues to recover. I could not be more proud of that man. His mental strength, as he continues to work through this, has been remarkable. His physical injuries, he was shot, but by the grace of God, he continues to do well. In fact, he's getting worked on today, but we expect a full recovery from Corporal Simcox as he continues to come back for this. I know there has been a lot of interest for interviews with Ty. He politely would not like to sit down and provide that access or those interviews. He did send me a statement that I'll read, but Corporal Simcox says that I feel extremely blessed that I am alive, and I'm very thankful for the support and prayers from everyone. I will tell you that Ty is a man that's strong in his faith, and I don't know that he strikes it up for just luck. I know that I don't strike it up for just luck. I think, as I've shared in the past, I think Ty acted heroically. I think he acted in accordance with his training. And I, for one, and I hope all of you are certainly thankful for how it ended as far as his well-being, but could not be more proud of the way he acted. And you'll see it in the video. He acted quickly, decisively, in accordance with his training. All right, let's talk about, again, I'll walk through the video. Once we go inside and watch the video, I'll come back out here and I'll stand here as long as you need me to take whatever questions that you have. But again, Corporal Simcox was on duty. He's a 16-year veteran. He's a corporal, and for us, a corporal is a field supervisor. So where we want him to be as he's on his shift is out on the road, listening to the radio, and somewhere where he can quickly get to wherever we need him based on what's going on that day out on the road. The position that he was in is a place that I know from conversations with the corporal, it's a place he sat frequently. It's right there in the middle of Highway 36. And again, it's protected. It's designed this way by concrete barriers on both sides. And it's where this gantry is. It's all the technology, where there's cameras and things to take to do the tolling and enforcement for folks using the managed lanes on the Highway 36. It's a place, I will tell you, that he has picked in the past, specifically because it's safe. It's protected from other vehicles being between those barriers. And it's also a place where he can work on paperwork, or others can work on paperwork without being surprised by somebody that might walk up on a car. So very intentional on his part to sit in that location for that reason. He'd been there for, I don't have a specific amount of time, for several minutes. And then I briefed before that it was at 1:18. Based on the in-car video, it might have been a minute or two earlier. But a black Chevrolet pickup truck that was identified by now the driver identified as Victor Anthony De Santiago, a 32-year-old male from Thornton, Colorado. Mr. De Santiago was traveling eastbound on Highway 36. He was in the managed lane. I can tell you that he slowed significantly as he approached Corporal Simcox's patrol car. And then he began to fire a handgun through the driver's side window towards Corporal Simcox's marked Ford F-150. The F-150 was struck by multiple rounds. You'll see in the video, one of the first rounds comes through the rear passenger compartment, actually comes through the seat and breaks the driver's side rear window out of the F-150. And then multiple rounds continue to go in. There are rounds into the front passenger door, and there are rounds that come through the windshield. And you'll see that in the video where you can see the windshield is cracked, and I believe it's one of those rounds that actually severs the cable that goes to our forward-facing in-car camera. That time, Corporal Simcox very quickly exits his patrol car. He moves to the rear of the F-150 and pulls out his handgun. And while this is occurring, our suspect, Mr. De Santiago, is pulling to the left shoulder, and I'm going to estimate he's about 50 yards down the road as he's pulling over onto the left shoulder. Corporal Simcox, recognizing at this point that he'd been shot and also recognizing that this person is a significant distance away from him, he goes back into the front passenger area of his patrol car and retrieves his issued rifle. And that's a rifle that is in a mount just next to the driver's seat of that truck. Deploys his rifle, comes back out to that left shoulder, and you'll see him manipulate the rifle to make it, put it into battery. He moves to the front of his patrol car. I don't know with any certainty whether he's firing rounds at that point or not. I do know the suspect exits his Chevy pickup truck, and I have reason to believe that he did engage and fire rounds from that handgun back in the direction of Corporal Simcox from where he parked. Corporal Simcox moves to the rear of his patrol car and actually to the right rear corner, and you'll see on video where he fires multiple rounds from his rifle in the direction of the suspect. I believe the suspect was hit multiple times. I do not know how many. I can't say with any certainty where he was struck. After firing, and all of the gunshots in this incident happened right about a minute, maybe just a little bit less than a minute in time and duration. Corporal Simcox immediately, once the gunfire stops, he returns, he puts his rifle down and he goes back into the inside of his patrol car and activates the emergency lights on his car. That's an important step because the way our cars are configured is you turn the lights all the way on, that automatically activates all of the cameras. So just by doing that, it would have turned on all of the car cameras, and it sends a signal that would have also activated his body-worn camera. And as you'll see, it was no longer on his shirt when his body-worn camera was turned on. Our systems are also configured that they're always, when they're on, they're recording video. And if I were to turn my body camera on right now, the video release would have 30 seconds of video with no audio, and that's just as it's compiling video, and then as soon as you turn it on, the audio kicks on. So in this case, when he turns it on, you get that 30 seconds of relapse that comes, and that's why we have some of the video that we have of the actual shots being occurred, because otherwise his cameras would not have been on, just sitting there in the center median. Once he turns his lights on, he picks up his body-worn camera, and you'll see he tries to put his body-worn camera on. And at that time, a bystander had stopped and came to his aid. They have a conversation talking about who else is here. And in fact, there's some of the bystanders are armed, and so there's a conversation about guns that they're bringing to the scene. And then they try to help Corporal Simcox. And you'll see some of that play out. Moments later, our first responding trooper, and that's Trooper Aragon, arrives on scene. And you'll see this in the video as well. Trooper Aragon was relatively close on a previous call for service. When the video turns on, you'll see him sitting in his patrol car. You'll actually hear Corporal Simcox air on the radio that he'd been shot, and then starts to provide location. And Trooper Aragon immediately responds to that scene. When Aragon arrives, he's on the westbound side of Highway 36. In the purpose of the discussion, Simcox is more on the eastbound side, as is the suspect, and as is a bystander vehicle. And as Trooper Aragon exits his patrol car, you'll see a red truck parked in front of our patrol car. That is the bystander that stopped to help Corporal Simcox. Trooper Aragon and Simcox come together in roughly the middle of this scene, and then they approach Mr. De Santiago, who is now down after having been shot by Corporal Simcox. There's also an off-duty officer that had stopped and was on scene as well, and there's coordination that happens, and ultimately Trooper Aragon places the suspect in handcuffs, and then they begin to assess the injuries that were received by Corporal Simcox. And you'll see them go through that as we've been trained to make sure that you're not injured in any other place. The two of them made the decision on scene not to wait for an ambulance, and that we're going to get Simcox away from there into the hospital. You'll see that Trooper Aragon turns around at Sheridan, returns to the scene, loads Corporal Simcox into the patrol car, and then they head to Denver Health, where ultimately he was treated for his wound to his arm. That's essentially the scene, the incident. I want to say a couple of things. Number one, the Westminster Police Department has been outstanding. They were on scene, came to that call for help within minutes as well. They also attempted to provide aid to Mr. De Santiago. They're on the scene. And I will tell you also that the staff at Denver Health was awesome to us. They were certainly awesome to Corporal Simcox. And again, all things worked out to the fact that Corporal Simcox is going to come back in due time, fully healthy and fully ready to serve. And I know he's excited to do that when that time is right as well. His official status, he's hurt, obviously, so he'll need to get better. But as in any other officer-involved shooting that we're involved in, he'll be on a leave so he can work through this case. And not only is the 17th doing their case that ultimately be presented to the District Attorney's Office, we will do our own internal review as well. And when those things are completed, I anticipate Corporal Simcox coming back into his former position. So with that, I don't think I forgot anything there. I think we'll hit pause and we can move into the classroom, and I'll show you the video. Okay, as I discussed outside, this is the start of the video, and what you're looking at now is the forward-facing camera in Corporal Simcock's patrol car. Just again to orient you, we are in the center divider of Highway 36. We're facing east, and we're just west of Federal Boulevard. So we'll start with the course. So you'll see the truck approach. That is that black Chevrolet. And you can see the crack in the windshield there. That's from one of the rounds that went through. And when I start it again, you'll see that it abruptly turns off, and that's when that camera.
Can you start from the beginning?
Sure, I can start over again. And then we'll, and the feed it's going to go to next is the in-car. And again, you can watch out what would be the passenger side, and you'll see the truck come by, and you'll see there's actually, if you look on the rear seat, you'll see a black thread come out, and that's actually where the round is exiting the seat, and you'll see, and the video highlights the glass breaking at the same time. All right, from the start again. So you're going to see now Corporal Simcock's exit, and you'll see him moving down the driver's side. Now he's back to the rear of the patrol car. This is him coming back to retrieve his rifle, and you'll see him reappear again, manipulating that rifle, and then move back towards the front of his patrol car. He's up here for some time, and again, I can't say with certainty what he's doing at this point, but eventually you'll see him reappear, and he'll move back to the back right corner of the patrol car. There he is. So that, I'll pause it there, that's the end of the shooting. He's now done, and he's going to move back, and you're going to see him, you'll see the next image comes from his body-worn camera that he picks up. It's also when he's turning on the lights. So we'll pause it here, and we're going to turn back on. This will be Trooper Aragon. Again, he's at the scene. He's actually on Washington, just north of like 72nd Avenue, so he's not far away. But you'll see, and we cut it down, but as soon as I turn it back on, if you listen to the audio, you'll hear Corporal Simcock say that he's been hit. I'm going to pause it there just because you can see the red pickup here, and then Corporal Simcox's vehicle is right behind that. But that red pickup is that bystander that stopped to help provide aid, actually backed in there to stay out of the way, out of traffic. Mr. De Santiago and his vehicle are on the screen to the left, and you'll watch Corporal Simcox approach from the direction of his patrol car. This is the off-duty officer I mentioned.
I'm sure the captain will let her in and need the 13 call up.
Okay, that's the video, and if you want to meet back outside, and we'll take questions there if that works for all of you. I'll wait for y'all again. So.
Want to do a mic check, please?
Yeah, test 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Audio all good again? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll jump back into it. And again, thank you for your grace in the logistics as we work through this. And we've already been taking notes about what we can do to improve this. Heaven forbid we have to do something similar in the future. But just after watching the video, and I'll, I suppose, conclude my remarks and then open it up to questions. Again, number one, thank you for being here and telling the story. But I just emphasize, and I hope you see it as well, where the pride I have in Corporal Simcox and the way he reacted to a really challenging situation. Again, there's no question in my mind that he was ambushed. And it's really important for us to try to figure out why that happened so we can learn from it and try to prevent that from occurring in the future, whatever part we may have the opportunity to have in that. But I'm proud of his training. I'm proud of, he was clearly emotional and upset, and I think that is a reasonable reaction. But what I also watched him try to control that scene and keep other guns out of play and really take charge. An interesting note is Trooper Aragon is one of our newer troopers. He actually started his career with us working across the parking lot building patrol cars and came to work as a state trooper, but his field training officer was Corporal Simcox. And so there's a pretty strong connection, and I know, not to put words in Trooper Aragon's mouth, but I know there was an extra special drive to make sure that his corporal was taken care of, and very, very proud of the way he responded in that afternoon as well. So with that, I will open it up, and like I said, I'll take whatever questions you have. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and did any CSD troopers provide any kind of medical aid to the suspect?
I do not believe so. I think all of our troopers that responded immediately, it was Trooper Aragon, and then you saw another trooper respond there moments later. But I believe all of the aid that was provided by law enforcement came from the Westminster Police Department.
And is that part of CSD training to provide aid in an officer involved shooting, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, in fact, the law requires that one of these things, once it's stabilized, we'll certainly check ourselves for injury, and then the aid is provided to the other people involved as well. And you heard Corporal Simcox also look for potential other people, other vehicles, other people that might have been hit by the gunfire. And I guess I can speak to that point. I'm only aware of one other vehicle that was struck at this point.
And he was shot once in the forearm, right?
That's correct. His wound is in his right forearm.
When speaking to that training, when we see Simcox firing multiple times from his rifle right there next to his vehicle, clearly toward the suspect, I mean, you're in an area with moving traffic and other people. I would imagine clearly he's not just firing at random. He had a very targeted approach. But can you speak to what that training is when you are in a field of moving vehicles, but also bystanders and people?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So when we teach firearms, there's some very, in fact, every time we're at the range, we go through the firearm rules, and one of those is to be sure of your target and what is beyond. And as you're taking aim and firing your weapon, that you're accountable for every single round that leaves that weapon, and then to have a backdrop that you're comfortable that it's safe to fire upon. And I can't speak specifically to how that analysis went with Corporal Simcox, but I think following his training, he would have been aware of that, what was beyond.
And speaking to the word that you use, this being an ambush, I was also taken by Simcox's demeanor when that bystander came to render aid. He seemed quite calm, given the fact that he was just ambushed and now another person is running at him. Have you heard or spoken to him at all just kind of about how quickly that all happened and, the mindset that he was in, having just been shot at, and now here's somebody coming at him again?
I have talked to him a handful of times, and I don't know that we had that specific conversation, but I will tell you from the very first time when I walked into his hospital room, he was calm, and he was starting to talk about how he was processing through and what he saw and what he reacted to. I think In any incident like this, the time is a very interesting component and how that compresses or expands, but also what you're aware of. And part of our training, specifically in incidents like this, is to make a rapid assessment of what is a threat and what is not. And in fact, we'll go through drills putting a similar scenario in place where you're dealing with an active threat and then a victim or a witness or something else presents, and how you're going to process that and make a decision. And I think that training played out where he recognized that Samaritan, and I'm sure, and I can't say, but I'm sure he noticed the truck pulling up soon and saw that, him getting in or out, but he was able to make that assessment. And then you heard him saying, no, don't get the gun, and he's talking about being shot and those types of things.
Have you spoken to that Samaritan?
I haven't yet, no.
So after the first shot, or the very, very first part of the video that we showed, the bullet hitting the front windshield, soon after that, that's when the bullet hit the cable right in the front.
Yeah, and I can't say with any certainty which round, but the first rounds that come in, and it's kind of backwards in that video, but when you see the source video, you can time it out. But the first rounds come into the rear passenger compartment of the truck, and just based on how those are wired, I suspect that it's one of the rounds that comes in probably through an A-pillar or some other part of the truck where that cabling runs through. And I guess I don't know specifically where that cable runs, but I think it's one of the, I know the last rounds as the suspect is driving were coming through the windshield.
And I'm sorry if you already said this, do you know an exact count of how many rounds were fired at Simcox?
I don't know. I'm comfortable saying there were multiple rounds fired by both De Santiago and by Corporal Simcox.
Can you go into a little bit to understand that there were citizens that showed up, they wanted to pull their weapons too?
Yep, there was, so there was at least the first, that red truck, one of those folks had a firearm and mentioned that to Corporal Simcox, and you heard him say, no, don't do that. And then the other person with the firearm that you saw, again, was an off-duty officer. And as you see Corporal Simcox and Trooper Aragon approaching the black pickup truck, you can hear audio where Simcox is actually having a verbal discussion with that person and identifies him as a police officer, and then they work through how the scene progresses from there. But those are the only ones that I'm aware of.
Where was that officer from?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Back to the question about aid, when the troopers left the scene, was Westminster PD on scene already offering aid?
I don't know exactly how the timing works out, but I have been briefed that it's Westminster police officers that provided aid to the suspect. But I can't speak to the timing and specificity.
He was dead on scene, though.
Yes.
Is there any perspective you can share? And I'm not sure how much you could get into this because I know you haven't talked to the CRT or got team yet. This man, identified as De Santiago, has a substantious criminal footprint in Colorado's judiciary. Several felonies on his record. Could you offer any sort of reaction to the fact that he did have a gun as a convicted felon?
Yeah, I won't, other than to say that I think he's extensive criminal history with violent history. And really, my lens in reviewing his history to date has been to try to identify some sort of connection to the patrol or to Corporal Simcox. And as I stated before, at this point, I can't say with any certainty what his motive was or why, other than perhaps a target of opportunity here.
Do you believe he has any sort of gang affiliation?
So obviously a lot of conversation today about international involvement. I have no reason to believe that he's associated with any international gangs. I can say that he's got gang activity in his history, but I can't speak to whether he was currently associated or involved with a gang. But it was a local gang.
Transparency is, of course, important, right, these days. Why do this, though? Why do you want to walk through, whether it be for us, the media, but also for the public to see? Why is that important?
I think to your first point, I think it's important for us to be as transparent as we possibly can about what occurred. I think in any of these, and you've seen this from the State Patrol now, that we're trying to be faster at releasing these videos without compromising the integrity, the investigation of those types of things. But it's important to see what happens. And I think in this case, obviously, we as an agency took somebody's life, and it's important that you all have access to that information about why that occurs, how that occurred. But we also have a story here where our trooper, our corporal, I think, acted commendably in a very, very challenging situation. I think that's an important part of the story to hear as well.
Does this change anything in terms of, you had spoken how Simcox chose this location frequently, he felt safe in this position. Does this change any sort of protocol with where you park, where troopers park their vehicle, and where they, do their work, to be in a place where they can respond quickly?
I appreciate the question. It's not the first time I've been asked, as you might imagine, by our own members. I'll tell you, it's a challenging situation to respond to, because here's what I do know, is that when people see a state patrol car, whether it's in the center meet of Highway 36 or on an overpass in rural Colorado, that people tend to drive better. And that's really what the mission of this organization is to encourage safer driving in the bulk of our work. And so that's important for us to be out there. Now, I don't know yet all of the factors that played into this, but I assure you that part of our internal review will be to look at patrol cars, will be to look at training. Is there something that we can do differently to help protect from this specific scenario? I just don't know what that would be just yet. But we can't just pull back and hide at the office. We have to be out there to provide the service that we provide. And I will tell you this, another point of pride for me in our organization, Saturday was a really rough day. And obviously I spent time at the hospital with Corporal Simcox. I spent time on scene. I spent time with many of you at Westminster Police Department providing an update. But as I left the police department to head back to our office that night to talk to our folks that were, Corporal Simcox teammates, what I heard were state troopers making traffic stops and working. And I tell you what, that's incredible to me. Their supervisor was just ambushed, and they all knew it. This is not something you can dance away from or hide. Was undeterred. And when I came back,
Do you know what gangs that's actually been affiliated with?
not comfortable saying with confirmation, but I can say comfortable in saying prior gang affiliation, probably as a juvenile, at least.
And I just wanted to circle back one more time. Can you say why that no CSP troopers provided aid on scene to the suspects?
Just the hands that were on scene. I think Westminster got there. You saw Trooper Aragon went immediately to Corporal Simcox, and then the Westminster police officers arrived on scene, and they assumed that. I don't know that there was a conscious decision or not.
And you're going to release the unedited version and that video through email?
Yeah, it'll go out here at 1 o'clock. There'll be the video we showed you and the source video that was used to create that.
Other than with this video, how do you collaborate now with investigators in the ongoing investigation?
Yeah, so we'll, and I've certainly been in contact with the district attorney's office to make sure that we weren't making them uncomfortable. But we will continue to stand back and let them do their look. They've got interviews, they've got forensic reports, and all of those things to go through. I don't anticipate another release from us in this. I think the next thing we'll hear is from the DA and that critical investigation team, incident team. And I look forward to hearing their assessment of this as well.
How concerned are you about the possibility of an active threat against your troopers?
I think you plan for the worst. And I will never say I hope it doesn't happen. I would tell you that we're going to plan for it to happen again so we can be ready for it. So it is a concern. It certainly is a concern, but I also have a tremendous amount of confidence in our troopers, and based on their training and the equipment that they have. At the end of the day, this is a risky profession for a lot of different reasons, but the folks that come to this line of work do it on purpose. They come because they understand the value of this profession and the nobility of it when it's done the right way, and we work really hard to do it the right way. And that's what I heard on the radio on Saturday afternoon when I was driving home. So my concern, sure I am, but I'm also very confident in the training that happens here, and so our folks can be ready for this.
You talked plenty about your conversations with Simcox.
Corporal Simcox. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what the conversation has been specifically with about his response, what went down after he took him to the hospital, and how he has been going on with the beginning of this ever since it happened?
Yeah, so kind of the way these things evolve is I don't spend a lot of time talking at this point in this stage of things. I don't spend a lot of time asking them what happened, right? My role at this point is to make sure that they have what they need to get better. And that might be physically, it might be mentally and emotionally, to make sure that they know they're supported. I will tell you, I have told both Corporal Simcox and Trooper Aragon how proud I am of them. and thankful I am for their service and how they reacted in this moment. And I hope that they are proud as well. But now what we're doing is leaning into them to make sure that they have the resources available, whatever that might be, so they can recover fully, whatever that means for them.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you all very much.